representing all the way from South Africa. I'm thrilled to be part of I'm thrilled to be part of the mentorship program, right? So this is a Say Yes event. I'm excited to see so familiar faces and new connections today. We're a global community of experienced people, allies, and supporters here to connect and learn in a judgment-free zone. These sessions are all about connection, networking, sharing, and learning from one another in a safe and supportive space. We host a series of events designed to foster meaningful connections and growth within our community. If you'd like to be present at the future session, please don't hesitate to reach out to our team. Before we get started, though, we have some key house rules. If possible, please have your camera on. It would be great to see you all. Any personal information shared by or about anyone is not to be shared outside of this space. We don't allow any rude language or discrimination of any kind regarding gender, religion, disability, culture, race, and etc. We understand that experiences and boundaries differ. You can be curious, but stay respectful. Thanks for joining us. And if you know others who might benefit from these gatherings, please don't hesitate to spread the word. Let's make the most of our time together. Now, it's my pleasure to hand it over to Yusleen, who will share a bit about herself. Yusleen, take it away.
Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you all had a fantastic day today. And Trey, thank you so much for that lovely introduction. I am truly honored to be speaking to you all the way from London. And a special thank you to those of you who are joining from South Africa. It's literally on my bucket list. I'll admit it. Okay, fine, guys. I'll admit it. I love talking. So when this opportunity came up, I was beyond thrilled. Trey mentioned I should share a little bit about myself. So here it goes. I'm a second year biomedical science student, and beyond my academic journey, I'm deeply passionate about growth and personal collective. I could go on and talk about myself, but today is not about me. It's about making connection, learning, and inspiration. On that note, I am especially excited for today because we have with us an incredible speaker. Siobhan, I can't wait to hear her story, and I know it's going to inspire and bless every single one of you. Now, before I hand it over to her, let me share a glimpse of who she is. Siobhan Marion-Dyett is a senior account manager in the space and satellite industry. Pretty cool, right? Interestingly, she studied sociology, but her journey has been anything but conventional. Born in London, grew up in Kiev, she faced many challenges, but that she remained persistent despite her odds. Her story is one of survival, strength, and success. She's just getting started. So without further ado, please join me in giving a round of applause for our guest speaker, the phenomenal Siobhan Marion-Dyett.
Thank you so much for that amazing introduction. I don't know how I'm going to be able to top that in explaining myself and my story. And welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for joining today's session. So a bit about myself. Like Yuslin stated, I am currently a senior account manager in the space satellite industry, working specifically at a great company called Analysis Mason, where I've really been able to kind of explore this industry, being new in the industry, find my footing, and continue to build out my personal network. I have a strong belief that your network is your net worth. And coming from an experience where I lacked that, which I'll come on to in a second, that has been one of my biggest, let's say, motivating factors when it comes to meeting new people, getting myself involved with new things, putting myself up for new challenges, and kind of, like I said, growing that overall network as a whole. So a bit about me and kind of starting backwards. I grew up in the care system. I was put into foster care at the age of 3. And my foster care experience was quite a challenging one. I didn't have a great, let's say, start to life in that instance. And throughout foster care itself, I experienced quite a few unfortunate challenges that led me into what they call quite an immediate adoption here in the UK system. So I did end up becoming adopted within the system. And unfortunately, it's not quite the glitz and glamour that you get to see on TV in terms of the perfect family. And there are a few people that, let's say, slip through the cracks. And that just so happens to be my story. I ended up going through quite a lot of, let's say, different forms of issues within my adopted household that forced me to, unfortunately, leave the adopted household at quite a young age. I think I was 14 when I actually left my adopted household. But at that age, I was quite embarrassed to tell any of my school friends or my teachers or anyone around me that I'm officially homeless. I did find myself homeless during my GCSE stages. But education was, and school itself, for me, was my safety net. Being able to be in an environment where I felt like I could challenge myself, where I felt like I could grow, where I had a voice, where I had people around me who understood my story and actually wanted to kind of find and provide that help, whether it be through just talking, pointing me in the right direction, really started to kind of cultivate my want to start to build out what I saw as my own family and my own network. Fast forward a couple of years later, and my education, like I said, was for me was a lifeline. Being somebody who is also neurodivergent, it allowed me to kind of really understand some of my own personal challenges and being able to accept my path and the things that had happened to me, myself, and build out what I needed in terms of resilience, self-leadership, the importance of things like making informed decisions, the need for things like plans and routines that was going to keep me on the right path. Because unfortunately, you see here, especially here in London, so many people within the care system fall onto the wrong path and being able to, let's say, move in with the wrong networks. Education allowed me to continue to ensure that I was creating the right networks for the next steps in my life, and whether that be living on my own and understanding what that meant, paying my own bills at the age of 16 and 17, understanding how to use simple things in life like a washing machine and cooking and cleaning and being accountable for certain things that probably in your youth you take for granted, because of course many of our peers have parents or less aunties or uncles or an older generation around them that's able to teach and cultivate or nurture them in that instance. And that just wasn't the case for me. So education really became that kind of safe haven and the only place I knew how to build networking systems. In addition to education, I always loved sports. I was an athlete growing up, whether it was 100, long jump, basketball, football, I always found myself involved in some type of sports. That also allowed me to get to a point within my sporting career to go national, as well as start to train for the country itself. And that became really important to me because going through my experience within the care system, I ended up with a lot of health issues. So really understanding from an athletic perspective how to nourish and maintain and look after my body, whilst also sticking and staying within education that unfortunately in this society, the odds are many in care don't, being able to nourish my mind and the networking around me really allowed me to build what I have now, which is a really, really strong network. It's allowed me to also cultivate the skills and find mentors within life that has now led me in myself to mentor whilst being a mentee. But in addition to all of that, one thing I always found quite close for myself that kind of brought me through that was also my commitment to my faith, as well as my commitment to self-growth, whether that be through counseling or through engaging with the people that I had met along the way in order to improve and better certain parts of myself. I'm now finalized and through that education managed to graduate, which was fantastic. When I started uni in my sociology class, I think there was like 300 of us and 12 of us graduated. So sitting there on my graduating day and only seeing 12 within my class, and I managed to make one of those 12, despite all the odds, for me was one of the biggest achievements for me. Following that graduation, I had no idea what I was going to do. I had spent my whole entire life in survival mode, whether it was surviving being homeless, whether it was surviving the traumas I experienced within care, whether it was just surviving being an adult, and technically I was still a child. I had no idea what the next step looked for me. So I found it very important to continue to throw myself into networking environments. I got involved with a company called Black Young Professionals here in the UK, which really kind of gears towards education and making young people who have just finished university, bringing them into certain career roles, upskilling, mentoring within a society that also maybe we don't always see ourselves in as well. In addition to that, I also made sure to get involved in care experience charities. A big one at the time was called Drive Forward, which was a focused charity that also gets you into education and work and supports with your kind of move from the different stages of education and work. But Drive Forward at the time as well meant so much more to me. They supported me at a time of my life where, unfortunately, stuff from my adopted household had decided to, as it does, so when the past decides to follow you, decided to creep up in my present adult life. Which did involve me having to go through things like police depositions, reliving traumas, and going through that experience. I had gone through so much at that point. I had built enough strength within myself, as well as a strong enough network to lean on within myself, that wasn't an experience that typically would have set me back if I hadn't have built that. But going through that experience made me think about so many young people on my journey that I'd come across who'd also been in care, who'd had a similar journey to myself, that maybe didn't have the same resilience level as me, as well as didn't maybe have the network I had for me to even build that resilience. And so it became very important for me to now take the skills that I had learned, take the networking experiences that I had learned, the training from mentors that I had been given, and give that to other young people, which is then where I formed and still running today, I think it's 7 years in the making now, a small charity offset from Drive Forward called Women's Wellness, a charity full of young care experience women who have stories just like mine, if not even more inspiring than myself, where we've been able to build a community and a network where we can learn from each other and grow from each other, especially in the next experiences of life. I just recently got married. Yay. Something I never thought was possible for me. And I don't have many newlyweds around me or people who are married around me, unless it's maybe in the workplace. So that the group that I built together and decided to mentor, in that instance, I was the mentee from some of the women in the group who are married themselves. They are now in a position where they can give back as well. My next step in life is to have kids. I've never had children. So I definitely know that from this group, there's definitely going to be a group of amazing women who's going to be able to cultivate what it means for me to be the mother I never had. And that's my journey, which is, as you can see, still growing. And still with a need for, even at the age I am now, and even going through everything I've gone through, there's still so much more I can learn and still so much need to continue to grow that network.
That was truly, truly inspirational and touching. Thank you so much for that. Wow. Now, we'll move into our Q&A session. If you have questions, please drop it in the chat. To start us off, Siobhan, as we celebrate National Caregivers Month, looking back on your journey, what do you believe has been the most pivotal moment or experience that has helped you shape you into the inspiring leader and advocate that you are today?
I think the most pivotal moment for me was probably two things in particular. And if I kind of touch on them both very quickly, I think first of all was my graduation. Graduating for me wasn't easy. It was also once again, another battle. Like I said, for me, life has been a constant survival mode. I ended up having to go to two universities because my first university actually lost my, not just mine, but a lot of our courseworks. I ended up having to go through a court case with that, and it kind of went on so long that I didn't actually know if I'd be able to even get back into uni and finish my university degree, especially changing universities and traveling. And I also ended up that in my final year of uni, I ended up actually having to pay for it out of my own pocket because student finance here doesn't cover that, unfortunately. They only cover a certain amount of years. So thinking about that balance and how I was going to manage that balance was very, very scary for me. When I got to graduation day and I kind of looked back at pictures I'd taken during university, the coursework I'd done, everything I submitted, when I was ready to give up, it kind of really reminded me that if I put my mind to anything, especially with everything I've gone through, and I really, really just pay attention to it, the world is my limit. The world is my absolute limit. If anything, I limit myself. And that for me was a really kind of pivotal point in me really understanding my resilience more so and what that could mean for other people. Like I said, 300 of us started, 12 of us graduated. So that resilience level just shows you how many people did give up when some of them did not have that experience in terms of fight that I had, very respectfully, and I didn't. So that's something for me was a really, really pivotal point in terms of really understanding my resilience, but sharing that also with other people around me, especially in terms of what that meant for me when it was shared to me to get to that stage and the difference it made in my life. But secondly, as well, like I said, I did go through quite a traumatic experience in my adoption, which involved me having to get involved with other services like police services and counselling services and be more in tune with services like Drive Forward. And I'd always kind of dipped and dabbed out of services if and when I needed it. I didn't really think much about what I could actually give back to those services, whether it be time, whether it be knowledge, or whether it just be that shared experience in that instance. And like I said, kind of going through that whole experience and sharing my stories with the Drive Forward charity in particular, it kind of opened up my eyes to how many other young people had been through, maybe not exactly the same, but similar experiences to me, but didn't necessarily have the will to fight or then maybe the resources to really understand how to get themselves out of that situation. And so that became a really pivotal point in me understanding that I needed to share so that other people didn't kind of fall into a spiral and, like I say, limit themselves how maybe I'd previously limited myself.
Your story was so beautiful, like it touched every single part of me. I wish I was there during that time to give you a hug. Honestly, it's so touching. And I love how you use your story to not stop you from accomplish what you want to, and then you're able to have your own networking group, be an advocate for other young people, which is well done to you. Congrats. Well done to you. I'm so proud of you. And as you said you said your network is your network. Our Making Connection event is all about networking, building community, and extending advocacy globally, especially for caregivers. How do you find the resources to help you as you learn to navigate life as a caregiver? Who helped you, or what organization has helped you?
One of the big organizations, as I said, is has definitely been Drive Forward. Drive Forward definitely helped me to get to where I am now in terms of a more kind of confident, forward-going, career-driven woman. That being said, throughout my different experiences, a lot of it as well has been through personal research. So understanding what services are out there and kind of tapping into those initial services. I mean, when I first was in the care system and I became homeless, there was a key service in the UK called Connections. And that was the known service in the UK to kind of help young people who were homeless or who had general needs. There's, of course, many different charities out there, but it's easy to get lost in kind of some of those charitable services as well. So kind of understanding the direct services that really tackled the needs that I had in those moments, whether it was housing needs, whether it was educational needs, whether it was understanding what my financial aspects, for example, were. It was about ensuring to kind of tap into each of those services individually, not just limiting myself to one, because each service also brings some knowledge, and knowledge is power in that instance. And that's the way you can grow, that's the way you can continue to kind of also learn about other services that were out there. Outside of that, in terms of navigating my kind of career experience life as well, there were definitely key teachers who when I felt like I could trust certain teachers or people that were around me in terms of the resources that I have around me, even in the workplace, there are certain people within different jobs that I have that I've managed to grow personal connections with, that I'm able to talk to and have, personal conversations with and be able to source out different information. For me, I wouldn't necessarily say there's a single point. I would say for me, it's about continuing to speak to different people, continuing to research different networking experiences that are out there. For example, I'm still part of the Black Young Professionals to continue to upskill myself. For me, it's about kind of keeping like a catalogue or as they call back in the day, a Rolodex of numbers and names and organizations that can help me at different points and different times of my life, even just for knowledge purposes.
Thank you for that. Siobhan, since you made sure that your education was always on point and you always tried to learn from others and build up your connection, your work in the space and satellite sector involves a high level of professionalism, especially in the area of governance. How are you able to utilize the connections you have made through your work in advocacy to grow in your career? Similarly, how can you use your connections in your career to promote advocacy in your communities?
The great thing about where I'm working now, especially, and a couple of the workplaces that I have been, is there's been a great emphasis on DEI and being able to have a greater understanding of everybody's needs within the workplace. And of course, where that is such a a key for my heart and everything that I do with my advocacy, as well as just me being representative as a woman of color who does have maybe certain diverse needs as well. I've been able to utilize my experience, my learnings from mentoring others within those workplaces to, for example, what we call reverse mentor our executive teams, so that they have a better understanding of individual needs as well as experiences, reactions, and things like that from maybe people like myself who have had experiences like myself. And in addition, I've been able to based on cultivating and building on my mentorship, I've been able to enter into communities like Black young professionals, gain mentoring from that, as well as provide mentoring back. And that's also from the mentoring within my career, supporting those who wanting to get into more, let's say, like a corporate career, something that I also do within women's wellness, in supporting the young people within women's wellness who are also looking at corporate careers following their educational systems. But then on the side of that, I've also had personal managers and people that I've worked for that have connected with me independently, who've maybe also wanted to look into fostering and adopting and have a better understanding of how to be a better parent in those situations, especially tackling certain needs or complexes. So there's definitely loads of different ways that I choose to get involved and continue to kind of mentor or learn myself, and ways that I definitely encourage others can definitely get involved as well, even if it's just a moment of time.
How have you adjusted to this work environment and built confidence to succeed in your role?
I would definitely say it takes time. I think we're all a bit guilty of things like imposter syndrome, the little devil on your shoulder that tells you sometimes you're not good enough or you can't do it. I think for me, it's definitely a couple of things. I'm very, very big on always requesting feedback, always upskilling. I'm very big on having open dialogue with my team and my management, ensuring that they kind of always understand if I don't understand something or how I feel. I'm also not shy to say what, to ask why, so I have a better understanding. But I think in terms of adjusting to the work and the working environment, it definitely takes time. It definitely takes kind of ensuring that I'm building the confidence in myself and understanding why I'm there in the first place. I think always making sure that you kind of understand your why allows you to then step a bit more into that confidence. In terms of like success and building the success within my role over the years, I mean, between you and I, that's definitely taken upskilling. That's taken humbling at times, and realizing that you're not always getting it right. So sometimes you have to go back to the drawing board, and that's okay. It's okay to make a mistake. It's okay to have to start again sometimes, because in doing those things, you only learn how to do things better the next time. And I think for, like I said, for a lot of young care experienced people, going through life, especially when you're a care leaver, there doesn't feel like there's room for error. So you always shy away or beat yourself up or kind of take a more of a negative approach on yourself when a mistake does happen in those instances. But I do think it's about taking the time to accept and understand that in making those mistakes, you learn and grow and become such a better version of yourself, especially if ultimately that is your why.
The work that you do is truly impactful. Here at Say Yes and Making Connection, we are a community that values positive change. What inspired your passion for advocacy, and how has it shaped your journey and the person you are today?
I would definitely say, in terms of shaping my passion for advocacy, it was hearing more and more stories like mine. I think when I first ever went into anything, like I said, all the charitable stuff that I had gone into and the networking experiences I had gone into, of course, it was all about what I could get out of them in those kind of times of my life. But being in those environments, you of course get exposed to a lot and you meet people and kind of you connect with people who have had similar stories to yourself. Even to the point sometimes you meet mentors who have had a similar story to yourself, but it was a bit more difficult because there was less access in their time compared to maybe the access or the internet access and things like that that we have to our hand now. And seeing the difference that having those individuals, having that knowledge, having their story, feeling like I wasn't alone in my journey, seeing the difference that had in my life and the impact that had in my life to continue on the right path instead of taking the wrong path, to surprise myself and accomplish things I never thought 10, 15 years I would accomplish, really made me see the importance of continuing to give back. It's always great to, receive. Who doesn't love receiving? We all love receiving and getting, but to really give back, there is a different feeling in getting to a point within your own life as well where you can start to give back, and that also gives you a personal accomplishment to realize that you've really made it to that point to be able to now share your experience. But it's still, like I said, it's still a learning journey for me in myself. And I think the fact that I'm still learning and I'm still going through different stages in my life, whether it be the next stage in my career or the next stage in my personal life, I still need that advocacy. I still need that mentorship. And even just seeing that need for myself continues to make me want to share what I then learn with other people. Because just like me, there is another little girl out there who unfortunately doesn't have a mother to call, or doesn't have a father to call, or doesn't necessarily have somebody within their personal network to necessarily call to understand what's happening next. And understanding that need for myself and understanding that's going to be a need for other people around me based on the communities I've built continues to inspire me to want to do, to then be able to pass that knowledge down to the others around me as well.
Wow, this is so powerful. I feel like a passion for advocacy is one of the most important things that young people nowadays should have. So what's one piece of advice or guidance would you give to your younger self?
One piece of advice or guidance I would give to my younger self: don't leave it too late to reach out. That would definitely be one. With any type of mentorship or advocacy, even if you don't fully know what it is you want or need from it, don't leave it too late. I do wish there were certain things I could have accessed or I should have accessed earlier. I'm glad I did, but I think there's always that kind of don't leave it too late. But secondly, as well, don't leave it too late to share as well. There was definitely things I was going through and accessing throughout my life that I may have could have shared earlier with other people around me, even if they weren't care experience. The gift of advocacy is continuing to support people no matter what and no matter where they are at in life, and you continue to learn from that yourself. So those would definitely be the two kind of young things I would say to my younger self.
Finally, our last scripted question. You grew up playing sports. What sports did you love playing and how did that impact your life?
I love athletics. I absolutely love running. More short distance, no. So if you ask me about a marathon or an Ironman, I will politely decline. But anything to do with track and field, 100 meters, long jump, that was my field play. That's definitely built the competitiveness in me now, which is probably why I'm in sales, and that continued competitive hunger and that challenge. But athletics has always been a huge passion of mine. It was a great escape and a great way as well to channel a lot of my frustration in something really positive. As well, I do still partake in running and jogging and things like that. I just so happen to be the crazy woman that wakes up at 4:30 in the morning for the morning jogs. But that's also the time that I get to myself before the rest of the world wakes up. It's a great time to reflect and practice my faith and just kind of balance myself before I sometimes slip back into survival mode.
Thank you for that, Siobhan. What sports activities do you still participate in? How do you manage your work-life balance?
So managing work-life balance, like I just said, in terms of the waking up at 4 o'clock, that's definitely part of being able to fit in some of that sport. I mean, my job is quite intense, and of course, it's what you put into it is what you get out of it. And working globally, I can be working different types of hours, for example. But I think it's always, again, reminding myself of also what's important to me. You know, the new family that I've now married into is really important to me, and cultivating that. So making sure that I am plugging off at certain days and prioritizing certain things that allow me to mentally and physically be prepared to then do my best when it comes to my job, when it comes to mentoring, when it comes to being Siobhan.
I'm going to pop in here right now because we do have some questions in the chat already. So the first one is, it says, you've gone through so much. Have you ever thought of documenting your story or maybe writing a book? I think many could be inspired by what you've overcome.
Funnily enough, I was actually saying this to my partner the other day about possibly writing a book. I don't think I'd write it though. I definitely hire, like a transcriber and I'd speak it over the phone. I think I'm better at speaking than writing, unfortunately. But it's definitely something that I would want to get pen to paper. I just don't know fully if I would share it. I don't know. It's something I'd have to think about.
Okay. And Natasha asks, I know you said you're wanting kids, but outside of that, what are you feeling excited about for the future?
So I'm definitely feeling excited about my next career growth. Like I said, at the moment, I am an account manager. I would love to be in a stage where I'm actually managing a team. Definitely something that I've been done some training for, ensure to kind of put myself in the right spaces for. But my job is one about performance. So it's ensuring to make sure I have that performance overall. But kids, moving and having my forever home, as they like to call it, is definitely on the bucket list as well. And traveling more as well. Unfortunately, this cost of living crisis is a lot, but yes, the traveling more is definitely something I'm inspired to kind of make sure I do a bit more of as well.
Wonderful. And then this is the last one in chat for right now, and it comes from me. You mentioned being neurodivergent. Can you talk about how that's impacted your education and your career, and what guidance you would give to others who might be struggling or learning to cope with neurodivergence?
Yes, 110%. So I have ADHD, and for years my ADHD was undiagnosed. So it was always kind of growing up, I was the talkative one. I was the one that didn't have, my attention span would be short. I'd always be asking why, and often kind of get misinterpreted as rude or me wanting to communicate all the time. But it's just my general neurodivergency. I think when I finally was diagnosed and had a better understanding, And I took myself to get diagnosed because I always found myself always wanting to kind of have a little bit more understanding and processing things maybe a bit more differently than my peers around me, and that want to kind of better myself just in general was what made me go and kind of find it out for myself. It felt like a weight lifted on my shoulders because I definitely had a better understanding of who I was, but it also allowed me to tap into different methods, self-help books, communities as well. I am actually also part of an women with ADHD in careers community as well. So being able to tap into the right communities as well, that then I could find support that allowed me to find the coping mechanisms that allow me to learn better, learn at the same speed, take information as much, get to an understanding of why as quicker, and not actually have that ADHD as my challenge, but now actually become my superpower, which is magnificent.
Thank you for that. You mentioned trusting people in different aspects of your life. Given the struggles you've encountered, how are you able to bring yourself to trust people?
Good question. It doesn't come easy. I will say that it really doesn't come easy. And if you ask my partner right now, it took me years. Okay, it took us. We were together 10 years before we got married, so it doesn't come easy in terms of trust. However, one thing I will say is that the beauty of any relationship is being vulnerable. Of course, you get to control that level of vulnerability. But whether you're connecting with a peer, a partner, a mentor, a counselor, a teacher, a co-worker, there's always a need to be vulnerable. And it's about accepting and being okay with letting that down, and understanding your boundaries in terms of that, and understanding also what you need from them before you allow a couple more boundaries. But I think it does get to a point in life, like I said, where it's also about acceptance. Having my guard up all the time isn't going to help me in the long run. And that's how I was before. Being able to understand what level of vulnerability and what I'm willing to share, and then taking people's reactions and actions as they are face value without holding on to hope, allows me to see who I can and can't trust more.
Usually you want to ask that question?
What some advice would you give to someone, like especially when it comes to like trust issues? How do you forgive yourself for like allowing your person to trust a specific person and yet still being taken advantage of?
I think because of my life experience in particular, one thing I've learned is that regardless, people are going to be people. I can't control that. All I can control is myself, what I share, what I'm willing to share, also what I'm going to be hurt by in that instance. And there is nothing that I've lived my life. So if somebody wants to repeat something back to me that I've already lived and gone through the pain of, I've gone through that. That's just a repetition of what I've gone through. And I think for me as well, it's about learning to be able to accept my stories, the vulnerabilities that I do share, so that if they are repeated back to me, if anything is even said to me in a negative way, it's not something that can hurt me because I've lived through it anyway. Understanding that people are people, people get worse the more you go up. As they say, Celine, as the young people say these days, the more you progress, the haters start to follow in that instance. And you do unfortunately see that. That is unfortunately, part and parcel of the cruel world we live in. I'm very grateful to be surrounded by good people that help me see the good from the bad, but I'm never wary of the fact that there is somebody that could come into my life at any point that can hurt me or that can break my trust in some type of way. But for me, if I'm growing that strength within myself, it doesn't matter who comes in and out of my life. As long as I'm strong and I'm founded and I have my reasons, That's all that matters. And I think more so letting go, which is hard. It's easier said than done. I'm not going to say it's an easy job, but letting go of allowing people to kind of have that control by ensuring to have the control yourself is definitely the first step.
Your story is so powerful, and I love the way you captured it. It truly shows that no matter what challenges we face in life, growth is always possible. The key is to believe in yourself, stay consistent, and keep moving forward because resilience turn obstacle into stepping stone. This is such a beautiful and powerful event. I enjoyed every single bit of it, and I hope it was inspiring to all of you. I would like to leave you with a word of encouragement. Do not give up. Keep going. I remember that storms do not last forever. After the rain, the sun always shines again. Keep pushing forward and be proud of your accomplishments, no matter how big or small. Before we close, I want to go over some of the next steps. As we know, November is National Caregivers Month. We are a charity that provides mentoring to caregivers across the UK and South Africa. We raise funds in order to support we raise funds in order to support the work we do and to continue to put on events just like Making Connection. If you would like to make a donation to help sustain Say Yes, we will put a link in the chat to our fundraising site campaign.
We would also love to continue this conversation. If you'd like to be added to our Making Connection WhatsApp group or added to the newsletter, we've added a document to the chat to give you an option to sign up to either or both. Thank you all for joining us today and for your active participation. Special thanks to Siobhan for sharing her insights and experiences with us. Truly inspirational and touching, Siobhan. It was truly inspiring. And to everyone else, thank you for being part of this engaging discussion. Your contributions made it truly special. Remember, every step forward is a step closer to your goals. Keep pushing forward, stay curious, and guys, never stop learning. You've got this. Thank you.